First contact's price. The crystalline structure on Dr. Sarah Chen's desk caught the morning sunlight, sending rainbow fractals dancing across her office walls at the Deep Space Communication Array in Chile. But she wasn't admiring the light show. Her eyes were fixed on the data streaming across her holographic display, her hands trembling as she double-checked the calculations for the fourth time. "This can't be right," she whispered, though after 15 years of studying alien communications, she knew it was. The signal was clear, coherent, and devastating in its implications. The Vex, a crystalline species from the Carina Nebula, were dying. Their sun's altered radiation was slowly causing their crystalline bodies to degrade, and according to their calculations, they had less than 2 Earth years before their entire civilization would crumble to dust. Sarah reached for her comm unit, hesitated for a moment, then pressed the emergency contact button. Within minutes, her small office was crowded with the familiar faces of the Earth's extraterrestrial response team. Director James Wong, his usual immaculate suit wrinkled from a hasty departure from Washington, stood closest to her desk. "Show me," he said simply. Sarah projected the signal analysis into the center of the room. The crystalline language of the Vex, translated by their AI systems, formed into clear, desperate words. "To any civilization who can hear us, we are the Vex. Our world dies. Our children shatter. The Galactic Council has denied our petition for aid, citing our lack of faster-than-light travel capability. We broadcast this message knowing it may never be answered. If you receive this, if you have any means to help us preserve our species, we beg you to respond." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the implications. Earth, though aware of galactic civilization, was officially restricted from interfering with any species that hadn't achieved FTL travel independently. It was the Council's primary law, one that had kept humanity itself isolated for decades until they'd finally developed their own FTL drives. "We can't help them," Admiral Chen stated flatly, no relation to Sarah despite the shared surname. "The Council would revoke our trading rights, our technology licenses, everything we've built over the last 30 years. We can't just let them die." Sarah protested, standing up so quickly her chair rolled back and hit the wall. "They have art, music. Their crystalline architecture is beyond anything we've ever seen. Their entire civilization is not our responsibility," the Admiral cut in. "The Council's laws exist for a reason. We're still newcomers to the galactic community. We can't risk everything we've built." Director Wong raised his hand for silence, his eyes still fixed on the rotating hologram of the Vex home system. How long would it take them to develop FTL capability on their own? Sarah pulled up another dataset. Based on their current technology trajectory, 10 years minimum. They have 5 years of food stores, but their bodies will begin to fail in 2. Then they die. The Admiral's voice was firm. "We all know what happened to the Centauri when they tried to help a pre-FTL species. Their entire civilization was embargoed into collapse." Sarah watched the hologram, seeing not just data points, but an entire civilization reaching out in desperation. She thought of her own daughter, of the values she tried to teach her. What was the point of advancing as a species if they abandoned their humanity in the process? "What if we didn't help officially?" she said slowly, an idea forming. Director Wong's eyebrows rose. "Explain." "The Council monitors official channels, government actions, but private citizens, independent research vessels, they can't track everything." "You're talking about breaking galactic law," the Admiral warned. "It's not just about politics, it's about the stability of developing civilizations." "No," Sarah countered, her voice growing stronger. "I'm talking about saving lives, about doing what's right, not what's allowed." She pulled up new data, showing Earth's private space fleet. "We have the technology to help them. We could develop a radiation shield for their planet, teach them to modify their crystalline structures to resist the new solar emissions. We have the knowledge. We just need the courage to use it." The room erupted in argument. Security risks, diplomatic consequences, moral obligations all clashed in heated debate. But Sarah's eyes met Director Wang's, and she saw something there, a glimmer of the same determination she felt. Later that night, as Sarah sat alone in her office, her terminal chimed with an encrypted message. It was brief, but it changed everything. Officially, this conversation never happened. Unofficially, you have resources. Use them wisely. Save them. Sarah smiled, already planning. Humanity had faced its own near-extinction events, had pulled itself back from the brink multiple times. They'd learned the hard way that survival sometimes meant breaking the rules, that compassion was worth any price. She began composing a response to the Vex signal. Earth's officials might have to turn their backs, but humanity, real, individual humans who understood the value of life in all its forms, would not stand idle while another civilization crumbled to dust. The price would be high, the risks enormous. But as Sarah typed out the first words of hope to a dying species, she knew some prices were worth paying. Some rules were meant to be broken. And sometimes, the true measure of a civilization wasn't in its laws, but in its courage to defy them for the right reasons. Breaking the rules. Unauthorized vessel, you are in violation of Council space. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Captain Maya Patel watched the Galactic Council patrol ship grow larger on her view screen, its sleek silver hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Her own ship, the Stellar Researcher, was officially registered as a private scientific vessel studying deep space phenomena. The reality was far more complicated. Engineering, status of our cargo, she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the sweat beading on her forehead. Crystals are secure, Captain. Her chief engineer, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, responded. Shielding is holding at optimal levels. They won't detect the signatures. Hidden in the ship's specially modified cargo hold were 20 Vex engineers and scientists, their crystalline bodies carefully maintained in radiation-shielded chambers. This was the third such transport in as many months, part of Dr. Sarah Chen's ambitious plan to save the Vex civilization one small group at a time. Council vessel approaching scanning range. Lieutenant Aisha Khan reported from Tactical, running our modified sensor deflectors. Maya straightened in her chair. Everything hinged on the next few moments. The deflectors were the latest technology, designed to mask the unique energy signatures of Vex bodies. But they'd never been tested against a Council patrol ship before. This is Captain Maya Patel of the research vessel Stellar Researcher, she broadcast. We're conducting authorized deep space studies of quantum fluctuations in this sector. The Council ship's response was immediate. Transmit your research permits and prepare for standard inspection. Maya nodded to Aisha, who sent their carefully forged documentation. Dr. Chen's network had spent weeks ensuring every detail was perfect, creating a paper trail that would stand up to scrutiny. But paper trails weren't their only defense. Council ship is beginning their scan, Aisha reported, her fingers dancing over her console, deflectors holding steady. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Every crew member knew what was at stake. If they were caught, it wouldn't just mean their own imprisonment. The entire operation would be exposed, and with it, Earth's covert assistance to the Vex. The scanning beams swept through their ship, section by section. In the cargo hold, the Vex remained perfectly still, their crystalline bodies dimmed to minimal energy output. They understood the risk these humans were taking for them. The price of compassion in a galaxy that had turned its back on their suffering. Scan complete, the Council ship announced after what felt like hours. Your permits appear to be in order, Captain Patel. However, your vessel's energy signature shows some unusual variations. Explain. Maya's heart skipped a beat, but her voice remained steady. We're testing new drive configurations for deep space research. The fluctuations are expected. I can transmit our technical specifications if you'd like to review them. There was a long pause. In the silence, Maya thought about the first time she'd met the Vex, how their crystalline forms had sparkled with colors that seemed to reflect their emotions. She'd watched their children playing, their bodies glowing with joy despite the growing threat to their existence. In that moment, she'd known why humans couldn't just stand by and watch them die. That won't be necessary, stellar researcher. The council ship finally responded. Your path is cleared. Maintain your current course and speed. The collective release of breath on the bridge was audible. Maya waited until the council ship had moved well out of range before allowing herself to relax. Message from the cargo hold. Marcus called out. Our passengers are okay. A bit rattled, but okay. Maya nodded, pulling up their navigational charts. Plot a course to the sanctuary coordinates, and someone tell Dr. Chen her deflector technology works better than expected. It would be incredibly dangerous, Maya warned. We're barely managing our current operation. Expanding it could expose everything. We're past hiding, Sarah replied, her voice gaining strength. The council isn't just enforcing stagnation. They're profiting from genocide. Every moment we stay quiet, another civilization could be marked for extinction. She walked to the window, watching a human child laugh in delight as her Vex friend created a dazzling light show. We started this to save one species because it was the right thing to do. But now we know it's bigger than that. The entire foundation of galactic society is built on this corruption. Told moved to join her, their crystalline form reflecting both species in its facets. Our people have a saying. Light shows truth most clearly when it passes through many crystals. Perhaps this is why our peoples met, not just to save one world, but to shine light on a darkness that has persisted too long. Marcus was already at his console, fingers flying over the controls. I can start analyzing data from the other affected systems. Look for patterns, survivors, anything that could help build our case. We'll need more help, Maya said, her tactical mind already working on logistics. More ships, more safe houses. A network. Sarah nodded, her decision made. Then we'll build one. The council stays in power because they keep species isolated, afraid. But they've never faced humans and Vex working together. She turned to Catal. Your people's knowledge of crystal-based technology, combined with our FTL drives, we could create communication systems they can't detect, ships they can't track. And while we gather evidence, Maya added, we keep saving who we can. Every refugee we protect is another witness to their crimes. Kittl's surface rippled with colors, hope mixed with determination. You continue to show us why the Council fears human involvement. Your species does not accept limitations when justice is at stake. Sarah smiled grimly. They call it interference. We call it compassion. And it's time to show the galaxy which is stronger. The next few hours were a blur of activity as they began expanding their operation. Messages went out through secure channels, recruiting more ships, more scientists, more helpers. The sanctuary buzzed with renewed purpose as humans and Vex worked side by side, no longer just fighting for survival but for justice. That night, Sarah added a new entry to her encrypted journal. Today we learned the price of compassion isn't just what it costs to help others, it's what it costs not to. The Council built their power on the assumption that different species would never truly work together, that fear and self-interest would always triumph over cooperation and compassion. They're about to learn how wrong they were. Above the sanctuary, the stars wheeled slowly in their courses, indifferent to the struggles below. But among those stars, something was changing. A network was growing, a revolution of kindness that would shake the foundations of galactic power. And it all started because humans couldn't stand by and watch another species die. The price would be high, but as Sarah looked at the determination on every face, human and Vex alike, she knew they would gladly pay it. The revolution of kindness. The refugee ship limped through the asteroid field, its engines struggling to maintain power. In the command center of what had once been a luxury cruise liner, Captain Maya Patel watched the pursuing Council warships on her tactical display. Status of our passengers, she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the situation. Scared but secure, Dr. Rodriguez reported from engineering. The Marins are holding up well, considering their plant-based biology actually helps with the G-forces. The ship shuddered as another piece of asteroid debris scraped their shields. They'd received the distress call 3 days ago. Another pre-FTL civilization facing engineered extinction, this time through artificially induced climate change that was rapidly killing their forest world. Council ships launching interceptors, Lieutenant Khan warned. They're done playing nice. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Good thing we're not alone anymore. As if on cue, 3 ships emerged from behind larger asteroids, vessels that appeared to be standard mining craft, but had been modified with crystal-based technology from the Vex. Their hybrid human Vex crews had been waiting for just this moment. Now, call, Maya ordered through the secure crystal comm. The Vex scientist, stationed aboard one of the rescue ships, activated their newest weapon against the Council. Truth. Thousands of small crystal drones launched from the mining ships, each carrying documented evidence of the Council's crimes. As the interceptors approached, the drones scattered, broadcasting their message to every inhabited system within range. The revolution of kindness. The refugee ship limped through the asteroid field, its engines struggling to maintain power. In the command center of what had once been a luxury cruise liner, Captain Maya Patel watched the pursuing Council warships on her tactical display. "Status of our passengers?" she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the situation. "Scared but secure," Dr. Rodriguez reported from engineering. "The Marins are holding up well, considering their plant-based biology actually helps with the G-forces." The ship shuddered as another piece of asteroid debris scraped their shields. They'd received the distress call 3 days ago. Another pre-FTL civilization facing engineered extinction, this time through artificially induced climate change that was rapidly killing their forest world. Council ships launching interceptors, Lieutenant Khan warned. They're done playing nice. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Good thing we're not alone anymore. As if on cue, 3 ships emerged from behind larger asteroids, vessels that appeared to be standard mining craft, but had been modified with crystal-based technology from the Vex. Their hybrid human Vex crews had been waiting for just this moment. "Now, call," Maya ordered through the secure crystal comm. The Vex scientist, stationed aboard one of the rescue ships, activated their newest weapon against the Council. Truth. Thousands of small crystal drones launched from the mining ships, each carrying documented evidence of the Council's crimes. As the interceptors approached, the drones scattered, broadcasting their message to every inhabited system within range. Back at the sanctuary, now grown into a sprawling underground complex, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the operation unfold through their quantum-entangled communications array. Beside her, representatives from 12 different species, all survivors of Council-engineered disasters, monitored their own rescue operations across the galaxy. "The Marin evidence is the most damning yet," said Zara, a survivor from a water world that had been deliberately poisoned. Her translucent skin rippled with anger. They didn't even try to hide the terraforming equipment this time. They thought no one would notice. No one would care. A new way forward. The Council's Grand Chamber had never seen anything like this. Through the massive crystalline windows of their space station, thousands of ships filled the void. Not just the sleek Council warships that had come to punish Earth, but vessels of every size and design imaginable. Some were clearly human, others Vex, and many more represented species that, according to official records, should have been extinct. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Council's raised platforms, her simple scientist's uniform a stark contrast to their ornate robes. Captain Maya Patel and Kull flanked her, along with representatives from 15 different species the Coalition had saved. "You stand accused of violating the fundamental laws of galactic civilization," High Counselor Ven announced, his silver skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "You have interfered with developing species, shared restricted technology, and incited rebellion against legitimate authority. Sarah's voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. Interesting that you mention legitimate authority. Let's discuss how you earned that authority. She nodded to Cuddle, who activated a crystal tech projector. The chamber filled with holographic evidence, records of deliberate disasters, proof of engineered extinctions, documentation of profit margins from mining abandoned worlds. We're not here to defend ourselves, Sarah continued as the evidence played. We're here to put you on trial. Murmurs spread through the gathered diplomats and observers. Council security forces moved forward, but stopped as hundreds of crystal drones appeared throughout the chamber, broadcasting the proceedings to every inhabited world in council space. This is outrageous, another counselor sputtered. You have no authority. Our authority comes from them, Maya interrupted, gesturing to the fleet outside. From every species you condemned to death for profit. From every civilization you deemed unworthy of survival. The Moran representative stepped forward, her plant-based form swaying with emotion. You engineered the death of our world for its minerals. You poisoned our oceans, the water world survivor added. One by one, representatives of species the council had tried to erase stepped forward to testify. Through it all, the crystal drones broadcast every word to the galaxy. High Counselor Ven's voice turned cold. You naive fools. Do you think civilization maintains itself? Progress requires resources. Order demands sacrifice. We did what was necessary. No. Sarah's voice cut through his justifications. You did what was profitable. But today we're going to show you something more powerful than profit. Unity. At her signal, the fleet outside began to move. But instead of attacking, the ships began linking together. Human vessels connected with Vex crystal ships. Maran biological craft merged with water-world spheres. Dozens of different species technologies combining into something new. Impossible, one of the counselors whispered. Inside the chamber, Ketol's crystalline form began to glow. You built your power on the assumption that different species could never truly cooperate, that fear and greed would always triumph over compassion. The linked fleet began to shine with combined energy signatures never before seen in the galaxy. Human FTL drives synchronized with Vex crystal tech, Maran biological systems merged with a dozen other technologies. The result was a display of power that made the Council's fleet look primitive. Humanity taught us a different way, Kittel continued. They showed us that the true measure of civilization isn't technological achievement or economic power. It's the willingness to help others, even at great cost to yourself. Sarah stepped forward. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to replace you. The Coalition of Compassion is assuming control of galactic civilization, effective immediately. You have no right, Ven shouted. We have every right, Maya countered. Look outside. Every ship out there represents a life saved, a species preserved, a civilization protected. That's real authority, earned through actions, not taken through force. The chamber erupted in debate, but it was already over. Throughout council space, the evidence of their crimes was spreading. More ships were arriving every moment, species coming forward with their own stories of council abuse, of human rescue, of cooperation leading to survival. You'll destroy everything we built, one counselor warned. Sarah smiled. No, we'll transform it into something better. A civilization based on mutual aid rather than exploitation, on cooperation instead of competition, on compassion instead of control. The next hours were a blur of activity as power shifted. The Council's authority, built on centuries of secret crimes, crumbled in the face of united opposition. But true to their words, the coalition didn't seek revenge. Instead, they began the work of transformation. 1 year later, Sarah stood in the same chamber, now the headquarters of the Galactic Coalition. The raised platforms had been removed, replaced by a circular arrangement where representatives of all species, FTL capable or not, could meet as equals. The price of compassion, She wrote in her final journal entry, "Turned out to be the courage to change everything." Humanity's stubborn refusal to ignore suffering, our determination to help others despite the rules, didn't just save the Vex. It saved the soul of galactic civilization. Outside the chamber, ships of different species worked together to rescue another civilization in crisis. But this time, they did so openly, proudly, with the full support of galactic society. The revolution of kindness had succeeded not through force of arms, but through force of example. In the end, the Council had been right about one thing. Humanity's compassion was dangerous. It was dangerous to any system built on cruelty and greed. It was dangerous to the very idea that species couldn't work together, that progress required sacrifice, that rules were more important than lives. The price of compassion had been high. But as Sarah watched humans and aliens working side by side to build a better galaxy, she knew it had been worth every cost. They had proved that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or authority, or even the laws of physics. It was the simple, unshakable determination to help others, no matter the price. And that was a force that could reshape the stars themselves.